The city lights of Manhattan glittered beneath our penthouse windows, but nothing about that night felt beautiful. I sat on the edge of the leather sofa, one hand resting over my 5-month belly, trying to quiet the tremor in my breath. It was past 3 in the morning when the elevator chimed, slow, dragging, like it carried the weight of a truth I already feared. Then Grayson stumbled inside. His shirt was wrinkled, half-buttoned, and the unmistakable scent of another woman's perfume, sweet, sharp, expensive, hit me before he even spoke. Whiskey clung to his breath, mixing with the floral notes in a way that made my stomach twist. He didn't look at me, didn't ask if I was awake, didn't notice I'd been sitting there for hours, rehearsing the conversation I thought might save our marriage. He tossed his Mont Blanc pen on the counter, missed, and let it clatter to the marble floor. "Elena, don't start," he muttered, slurring the words as he kicked off his shoes. "I didn't say anything," I whispered. "That's the problem," he snapped without turning around. "You never say anything." But I had, so many times. I told him I felt alone. I told him I was scared. I told him the baby needed stability, but none of it mattered. Not to a man who believed he was untouchable. As he disappeared into the bedroom, leaving the stench of betrayal hanging in the air, something inside me shifted. It wasn't rage. It wasn't heartbreak. It was clarity. A cold, precise understanding that the man I married no longer existed. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't powerless. I had knowledge. I had access. I had everything he thought I was too soft to use. My fingers moved slowly, deliberately, as I opened my MacBook Pro and typed the first command of a plan I've been too afraid to complete. Tonight, fear finally died. Because before sunrise, Grayson Hale would lose everything he ever took for granted. And he didn't even know it yet. The real betrayal was about to begin. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of Grayson's betrayal. I had cried out every tear months ago. But because something far more dangerous had awakened inside me. Precision. As the first pale streaks of dawn brushed across the Manhattan skyline, I was still at the kitchen island, reviewing documents I wasn't supposed to have access to. But Grayson had grown careless. Arrogance blinds smart men faster than ignorance ever could. 6 months earlier, when he opened a new subsidiary, Hale Dynamics East, he'd filed the preliminary ownership documents in a rush, eager to impress investors from Park Avenue. He never corrected the early paperwork, never amended the temporary control clause, and never imagined that anyone, not even his quiet little wife, would notice a legal loophole that allowed a spouse to assume provisional ownership in the event of financial instability or marital breach. He thought it didn't matter. He thought I didn't matter. I scrolled through files on my MacBook Pro, the glow reflecting on the marble like a cold promise. My hands shook, not from fear, but from the unfamiliar thrill of finally standing up for myself. I had been the one who helped him review contracts when our marriage was still warm. I had been the one who organized his emails, flagged risks, caught accounting inconsistencies. I had built safety nets for him, protections he never bothered thanking me for. Now those same safety nets were mine to pull. All I had to do was trigger the clause. One digital signature, one submission to the state corporate registry, one silent decision that would move every asset tied to that subsidiary under my name, automatically, legally, irrevocably. A tremor of doubt tightened in my chest. I looked down at my belly, felt the small flutter beneath my palm. This wasn't revenge, it was survival, for both of us. I whispered softly, "I'm not letting him destroy our future." With a steady inhale, I moved the cursor, clicked execute, and watched the screen confirm the transfer. A single line of text appeared. Ownership status, updated successfully. My heart slammed against my ribs. Half of his empire, gone from him, safe with me, just like that. But I knew Grayson Hale. The moment he sensed something was off, he wouldn't back down. He wouldn't apologize. He wouldn't reflect. He would come for me, and he would discover that I was no longer the woman he could break. Because the first move was mine, and the next would crush him. By the time Grayson finally woke up late the next morning, sunlight filled the penthouse the way warmth used to fill our marriage, soft, effortless, long gone. He walked into the kitchen shirtless, rubbing his temples, acting like the night before never happened. "Elena, coffee," he said, snapping his fingers the way he did with assistance. I didn't move, and maybe that's what irritated him most, my silence, my stillness. He thrived on dominance, on causing reactions. When I didn't flinch, he frowned. "What's with the attitude?" he muttered, grabbing his overpriced espresso beans from the cabinet. God, pregnancy hormones are exhausting. The words stung, but they weren't new. Humiliation had become the quiet soundtrack of our marriage. There were the dinner parties on Fifth Avenue where he'd introduce me as the boring one who works with spreadsheets. The charity galas where he'd whisper criticisms under his breath. "Fix your posture. You're talking too much. No one cares about your job." And the worst, when he mocked my younger brother Noah for being unemployed after an injury, calling him dead weight right in front of me. That night, I cried in the bathroom with the faucet running so he couldn't hear. But humiliation changes a person, quietly, permanently. As Grayson sipped his espresso, he continued his monologue of complaints, traffic, investors, his hangover, never once glancing at the woman carrying his child. "You should be grateful," he said suddenly, as if the thought just occurred. "Do you know how many women would kill to live this life?" This life. A gilded cage dressed as a penthouse. I placed my hand on my belly, grounding myself in something real, something pure, something that did not come from him. He didn't notice. Of course he didn't. His phone buzzed. The name Sienna Clark flashed across the screen. He smirked, not even trying to hide it, and typed a reply. Heat rose in my chest, but it wasn't heartbreak. It was resolve. He thought last night's betrayal broke me. He thought years of humiliation softened me. He thought I was still the Elena who apologized for everything, even his mistakes. He had no idea that while he mocked me, I was quietly rewriting the rules of our marriage, and soon, Grayson Hale would learn what happens when the woman he underestimated finally stops bowing her head. Because his next humiliation would be public and delivered by me. 2 days after the night Grayson stumbled home reeking of perfume, Hale Dynamics hosted a high-profile charity gala at the Plaza Hotel. I didn't want to go. My dresses no longer fit the same, my feet swelled by evening, and the idea of pretending everything was fine felt suffocating. But staying home would only feed his narrative that I was too emotional to attend important events. So I went. Not for him, but to witness whatever truth he was hiding in plain sight. The ballroom glowed with gold chandeliers, polished marble, and people who loved to be photographed more than they loved the cause they were supposedly supporting. My hands rested on my stomach as I walked in, reminding myself that no matter what happened, I wasn't alone. Then I saw her. Sienna Clark, tall, sleek, breathtaking in a crimson gown that hugged every curve with deliberate precision. She wasn't just another woman in the room. She was the woman Grayson wanted people to notice. She stood beside him as if she belonged there, leaning in, whispering into his ear, touching his arm in that rehearsed, intimate way only two people with shared secrets do. And Grayson didn't pull away, not even when he saw me, not even when our eyes met across the crowd. The humiliation was sharp, but different this time. Not a wound, but a confirmation, a clarity, the kind that hardens resolve rather than breaks it. A few guests shifted uncomfortably, others pretended not to see, but Sienna, she smiled. Not the polite social smile used for cameras. This was small, knowing, calculated. She approached first. "Mrs. Hale," she said sweetly, the title dripping with false respect. "You look radiant. Pregnancy suits you." Her tone suggested otherwise. Grayson joined her, hand lingering at her back far longer than necessary. "Elena," he said casually, as if nothing about this moment was wrong. "You remember Sienna, right?" His eyes dared me to react, to crumble, to cause a scene. But I'd spent years training myself not to. Instead, I smiled, small, steady, dangerous. "Yes," I said. "I remember everything." Sienna blinked, confused for a split second, sensing something she couldn't name. because she didn't know what I had done. She didn't know the empire she hoped to share was already in my name. But she was about to find out, sooner and far more brutally than either of them expected, and their night at the plaza was about to turn against them. I slipped out of the ballroom the moment Grayson and Sienna became the center of attention again. Applause followed them as they took photos with donors, his hand on her waist, her lips close to his ear. That image carved itself into my memory like a scar I hadn't asked for. I just needed air, space, anything that didn't smell like champagne and betrayal. The hallway outside the plaza's ballroom was quiet, lined with portraits of New York elites who had once walked these same floors. I sank onto a velvet bench, trying to catch my breath. My baby pressed gently against my ribs, a reminder that life was still moving forward, even when mine felt stuck. That was when I heard footsteps, slow, steady, familiar. Elena? I looked up and saw Dr. Lucas Bennett standing there, black suit crisp, expression soft with concern. I didn't know he'd be at the gala, though I supposed a respected OBGYN like him was invited to many charity events. Yet in that moment, he looked less like a celebrated doctor and more like the only person in the world who could see that something inside me was breaking. "I didn't mean to interrupt," he said when I didn't answer right away. "You looked overwhelmed." I tried to smile, but it cracked before it reached my eyes. "Just needed a minute." His gaze followed mine back toward the ballroom doors, where laughter from Grayson echoed faintly. Lucas didn't need details. A good doctor reads more than symptoms. "Elena," he said gently, lowering his voice, "are you safe?" The question caught me off guard. "Yes," I whispered automatically, but Lucas didn't believe me. He's studying my trembling hands, the way I kept touching my belly as if grounding myself. "You don't have to tell me anything," he continued. "But no woman should carry a pregnancy while carrying fear." My throat tightened. No one had spoken to me like that in years, with sincerity, not judgment. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. A patient emergency. He hesitated, looking torn. "If you ever need help," he said softly, "call me. Any hour." Then he left, disappearing around the corner. I stared after him, breath uneven. Because for the first time in a very long time, someone saw me, really saw me. And I didn't realize then that Lucas Bennett wouldn't just help me survive. He would become the one person Grayson Hale never expected to fear. And their lives were about to collide in ways none of us could imagine. 2 days after the gala, I returned to the penthouse from a routine prenatal appointment. My legs ached, my back throbbed, and all I wanted was a warm shower and silence. Instead, I froze the moment I opened the door. A duffel bag sat in the entryway, worn, familiar. And then a voice drifted from the living room, deep, slightly raspy, unmistakable. "Elle, you look like you've been through hell." My breath caught. "Noah?" My younger brother stood from the sofa, hands in the pockets of his faded jacket, hair longer than I remembered. I hadn't seen him in almost 3 years, not since the night Grayson belittled him for losing his job after an injury. Noah walked away that night, slamming the door behind him, and grief carved a hollow space between us. Now he stood there as if time had folded in on itself. "I figured you wouldn't call," he said with a soft shrug. "So I came anyway." Tears stung my eyes, but I blinked them back. "You shouldn't be here." "Grayson." "Yeah," Noah interrupted, jaw tightening. "I saw him on TV last week. Smug as ever." He stepped closer, eyes scanning my face, not with judgment, but with a brother's instinctive protectiveness. "You okay, Elle?" The truth pressed against my ribs. No, I'm not okay. I'm pregnant, alone, humiliated, and knee-deep in a war I didn't start. But I nodded anyway. Noah exhaled slowly, then reached into his backpack. He pulled out a small USB drive and placed it in my hand. "What's this?" I asked. "Insurance," he said quietly. Turns out, Grayson messed with more people than you think, and some of those people trusted me with things. He wouldn't meet my eyes at first, then finally added, I didn't come back to make things worse. I came because you're my sister, and because you're not fighting this alone anymore. My pulse quickened. Noah, what exactly is on this drive? He hesitated, just long enough to scare me. Proof, he said. Enough to bury him if you ever choose to. My hands trembled. I wasn't ready for this kind of power. But the universe wasn't waiting for me to be ready. Before I could respond, the penthouse elevator chimed. Noah's eyes narrowed. Is that him? Because whoever walked through that door next was about to change everything. And the war in our family was only just beginning. The elevator door slid open, and Noah instinctively stepped in front of me, shoulders squared, ready for a confrontation. But it wasn't Grayson. It was the building's concierge, holding a small stack of forwarded mail. Mrs. Hale, he greeted politely. These were delivered to your alternate address. I thought you'd want them privately. My heart thudded. Alternate address? He meant the Brooklyn apartment no one was supposed to know about. I offered a tight smile and took the envelopes. When the concierge left, Noah turned to me, brows raised. Alternate address? What's going on? I swallowed. There was no hiding it now. Come with me, I said. We left the penthouse quickly, taking the service elevator down to the garage. My hands trembled as I slid into the driver's seat of my old Toyota, an odd contrast to Grayson's luxury Mercedes, yet somehow the worn steering wheel felt more like safety than anything in our penthouse ever had. The drive to Brooklyn was quiet, heavy. Finally, Noah spoke. Why would you need another apartment? Are you in danger? Not physical danger, I murmured. But when someone tries to control everything around you, you start creating spaces they can't reach. He didn't push further, which I appreciated. He'd always been the brother who understood silence. I unlocked the door to the small loft. Exposed brick walls, soft lighting, a second-hand couch, and a tiny desk with my MacBook Pro still open from the last time I worked here. A baby blanket I'd bought weeks ago lay folded on the counter, one of the few things that made me feel hopeful. Noah took it all in, eyes softening. You built a safe house. Yeah, I whispered, just in case. He looked at me for a long moment. What exactly are you planning? I handed him the envelopes. They were financial notices, confirmation letters, and a printed copy of the ownership transfer from Hale Dynamics East. Proof that half of Grayson's empire now belonged to me. Noah's jaw dropped. Holy, Elena, this is massive. Does he know? Not yet. And when he finds out? My stomach tightened. He'll lose everything, and he'll blame me. Noah stepped closer, placing a steady hand on my shoulder. Then we prepare. You're not facing him alone. But before I could respond, my phone buzzed violently. 3 messages, 1 missed call. All from Grayson. And the last message made my blood run cold. Where are you? We need to talk. Now. Grayson's messages kept coming. Short, frantic, uncharacteristically impatient. Where are you? Call me back. Now, Elena. Noah hovered near the loft's window, arms crossed. He's spiraling, he muttered. Men like him panic when they lose control. I knew he was right, so instead of responding, I powered off my phone and tried to focus on the meeting I had scheduled the next morning, a quarterly review at Hale Dynamics headquarters. If Grayson was suspicious, I needed to appear calm, compliant, predictable. But I wasn't any of those things anymore. The next day, I walked into the glass high-rise on Park Avenue wearing a simple black dress, the only one that still fit, and a quiet determination. Employees greeted me politely, unaware that their world was about to shift. The boardroom was already full when I entered. Grayson stood at the head of the table, immaculate in a charcoal suit, his expression sharp with irritation. Sienna sat beside him, flipping through her iPad like she had earned a seat at the table. Elena, Grayson said tightly, glad you could join us. He didn't pull out a chair for me. Lucas Bennett had done that for me at the gala, but Grayson never would. Instead, Noah's words echoed in my mind. You're not fighting alone anymore. As the meeting began, I sat quietly, hands folded over my stomach, listening. That's when the tension in the room sharpened. Grayson was presenting a plan, an outrageous one, to shift a large portion of company assets into a discretionary trust. A trust with Sienna Clark listed as a beneficiary. My pulse quickened. So this was his endgame. A life with her, and nothing left for me. But what he didn't know was that the transfer would fail, because half of the assets he planned to protect no longer belonged to him. Mrs. Hale? One of the board members asked suddenly. Do you have any insight on the subsidiary numbers? Your name appears on several documents. Grayson stiffened. What? He hissed. I met his eyes, calm and steady. Yes, I said clearly. There have been some recent changes in ownership. I'll be happy to walk the board through them. Sienna's head snapped toward me. Grayson's face drained of color. Whispers erupted around the table. But before he could explode, the double doors opened, and someone unexpected walked in with a folder of confidential files. The room fell silent, because the person who entered had the power to destroy Grayson Hale's entire strategy in one sentence. And they weren't on his side. I didn't go home after the board meeting, not to the penthouse, not to the life Grayson believed he still controlled. Instead, I took a cab straight to my Brooklyn safe apartment, clutching the folder the unexpected ally, mentor turned enemy of Grayson had handed me in the boardroom. The documents confirmed everything Noah had warned me about: offshore accounts, shell companies, and transactions designed to erase me slowly from the financial picture. If Grayson wanted war, he'd already lost. He just didn't know it yet. The loft was dark when I entered, the only light coming from the city outside. I slipped off my coat, placed my hand on my belly, and whispered, We're almost there, just a little longer. Then I opened my MacBook Pro. Every file, every transfer form, every clause I needed was already prepared. It was time to finalize what I had only begun days earlier. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as memories of my old self flickered. The Elena who apologized to keep peace, who stayed quiet to avoid conflict, who believed love could survive disrespect. She was gone, and in her place stood someone Grayson never imagined I could become. I entered the secure portal for Hale Dynamics East. The system recognized my credentials, the ones Grayson never bothered to revoke because he assumed I'd never use them. I typed slowly, deliberately. Name transfer, corporate control, asset reallocation. Each click echoed like a heartbeat in the silent loft. When the confirmation screen appeared, my eyes filled. Not with sadness, but with something powerful. Something cleansing. Ownership transfer, approved. Primary controller, Elena Brooks Hale. Reversal requires full board consent. In other words, he could scream, threaten, beg, or rage. It wouldn't matter. He couldn't undo it. Just then, thunder cracked outside, lighting up the loft. My chest tightened, because the timing wasn't symbolic, it was real. The storm outside rattled the windows like someone pounding to get in. I stood, heart racing, realizing something I had ignored for too long. Grayson wasn't stupid. He wasn't passive. And he didn't like surprises, especially financial ones. My laptop chimed. A notification flashed across the screen. Unauthorized attempt to access account from penthouse IP address. He knew. He was already trying to break into the system, and worse, my phone began buzzing violently. Incoming call, Grayson Hale. And when I answered, his voice wasn't angry. It was something far more dangerous. Grayson's voice on the phone was wrong, not furious, not panicked. Calm. Calm in the way a storm is calm right before it rips a roof off. Elena, he said quietly, we need to talk. My hand tightened around the phone. No, I answered, we don't. A beat of silence, then a low, humorless laugh. You think I don't know what you've done? I did what I had to, I whispered. Funny, he replied, because so will I. Before I could speak, he hung up. The room felt colder. The storm outside hammered at the windows, wind rattling like fists demanding entry. My pulse pounded as I reopened the folder left by the mysterious man in the boardroom, Arthur Langston, former mentor to Grayson, now investor turned adversary. Arthur had built Hale Dynamics with Grayson, funded him, guided him, believed in him. Until Grayson betrayed him, too. So when Arthur requested a private meeting that same night, I agreed. I met him at a dimly lit lounge overlooking the East River. He wore a navy coat, scarf loose at his neck, eyes sharp with the kind of intelligence that unnerves people without him ever speaking. "You activated the emergency control clause," Arthur said without greeting. I stiffened. "How did you know?" "I wrote that clause," he replied simply. "For my protection, for moments like this." A bartender placed a glass of sparkling water in front of me. Arthur's request, not mine. "You're pregnant," he said. "You need clarity, not poison." I didn't argue. He slid a document across the table. "These are Grayson's off-record ventures, illegal ones. You'll need them soon." My breath caught. "Why help me?" Arthur leaned in, voice soft but razor-sharp. "Because Grayson Hale ruined my life. And you, Mrs. Hale, may be the only person capable of taking him down without burning everything to the ground." I swallowed hard. "What do you want in return?" "Nothing," he said. "Just justice, and perhaps—" his eyes softened briefly, "a chance to restore what Grayson destroyed." I looked down at the documents, financial trails, shell corporations, email drafts Grayson never sent, proof enough to sink a man of his stature. When I stood to leave, Arthur placed a steady hand on my shoulder. "Be careful driving home. Storm's rough, and Grayson is more dangerous cornered." But when I stepped outside, rain slamming into the pavement, my phone buzzed again, a single message from an unknown number. "He knows where your safe apartment is." And in that instant, I realized the storm outside was nothing compared to the one coming for me. The storm had slowed by morning, but inside Hale Dynamics, a different kind of storm was gathering, one no weather forecast could predict. I arrived late for the executive briefing, hoping to slip unnoticed into the back row. But as soon as the elevator doors opened, I saw her, Sienna Clark. She stood near the conference table, perfectly composed on the outside, hair sleek, dress tailored, posture impeccable, but her eyes told another story. Red-rimmed, unsteady. Flicking toward every corner of the room like she expected shadows to jump out. She was unraveling. I took my seat silently, watching her. She kept glancing at Grayson, who was unusually quiet, pacing by the floor-to-ceiling windows. He looked like a man who could feel the ground shifting beneath him, but didn't know why. Sienna finally approached him. "Grayson," she hissed under her breath. "You said everything was handled. Why am I hearing rumors about asset freezes?" He didn't answer. "Grayson," she repeated, voice trembling this time. "Tell me it's not true." He turned sharply. "I'm dealing with it." "That's not an answer," she whispered, panic rising. "You told me you filed everything. You told me the trust was secure. You told me." "I said I'm handling it." He snapped. "Stop asking questions." Her face fell. This wasn't confidence. This was desperation. When he walked away, she sank into a chair, breathing unevenly. Her iPhone slipped from her hand. I didn't mean to look at the screen when it lit up, but I caught a glimpse of a text notification. "Your name has been removed from the beneficiary list." So that was it. He was cutting her loose. The woman he paraded in front of donors. The woman he used to inflate his ego. The woman he risked our marriage for was now no more valuable to him than a paper cup left on a conference table. Sienna closed her eyes, shoulders trembling. She looked small, like a chess piece that suddenly realized it wasn't the queen, but the pawn. Then her gaze lifted and locked on me. Not with arrogance, not with superiority, with fear. She walked toward me slowly, as if approaching the one person who might hold answers. "Elena," she whispered, voice cracking. "What did you do?" I stared at her, calm, controlled. I protected myself, I said. Her lips parted. You don't understand. If he's losing control, you're not the one he'll come after first. My heart stumbled. What do you mean? Sienna swallowed hard. I mean he's coming for Noah. And he's not coming to talk. I didn't wait for the meeting to end. The second Sienna whispered Noah's name, a cold rush tore through my chest. My brother had already lost so much because of Grayson. His confidence, his stability, his peace. I wasn't going to let him lose anything else. I slipped out of the boardroom just as Grayson's voice rose behind me. Everyone stay exactly where you are. He knew something was wrong. He sensed it. Predators always do. But what he didn't know, what he couldn't even fathom, was that the real trap had already snapped shut. While riding the elevator down, I powered on my phone for the first time since last night. It lit up with notifications, missed calls from Noah, texts asking where I was, and one short message sent only minutes earlier. He came to my place. I'm okay, call me. My knees nearly gave out. I grabbed the elevator railing, breath shallow. Grayson had gone after him. Not physically hurting him, but showing up at his door, pounding, demanding answers, demanding loyalty. Noah must have refused to let him in. I knew my brother. He would never back down from a bully. But Grayson wasn't finished. When the elevator opened into the lobby, chaos was unfolding. Employees were whispering, phones ringing non-stop, security guards rushing upstairs. I approached the front desk. What's happening? I asked. The receptionist's eyes darted nervously. Mr. Hale's private accounts have been frozen, real estate holdings, reassigned, and there's something else. He just tried to access funds that no longer exist. No longer exist. My heart pounded. The transfer I'd executed, the documents Arthur provided, the clause Grayson ignored. It was all hitting him now, all at once. Upstairs, a roar echoed through the building, so loud the marble floor seemed to vibrate beneath my shoes. It was Grayson's voice, ragged, unhinged. He had finally discovered the truth. I turned just as the elevator opened, and Grayson stormed out. His tie was askew, his face drained of color, his eyes wild with disbelief. Elena, he growled, what did you do? People stepped back, security tensed, even the lobby air felt frozen. I steadied my posture, forcing calm into my voice. I protected what you tried to destroy. His jaw flexed. Undo it. I can't, I said, and even if I could, I wouldn't. For the first time since I met him, fear flickered in his eyes. Real, unmistakable fear. He leaned in close, voice low and shaking. You have no idea what you've started. But before he could say more, a hand gripped his shoulder, firm, authoritative. Not Noah, not security, a federal investigator, and his next words would shatter Grayson Hale's last illusion of control. The federal investigator's grip on Grayson's shoulder was firm enough to stop him mid-threat, but not firm enough to silence the pure hatred in his eyes. Mr. Hale, the agent said calmly, we need to discuss a few irregularities in your filings. You'll come with us voluntarily. Grayson stiffened, but he forced a tight smile. Of course, just a misunderstanding. His gaze cut to me, sharp, venomous, promising consequences. The agents escorted him through the revolving doors, and for a moment, the entire lobby exhaled. Phones stopped ringing, whispers faded, life resumed its normal rhythm. But mine didn't, because an hour later, my building concierge called. Mrs. Hale, your husband requested access to your penthouse. We declined as you instructed, but he's waiting outside. He refuses to leave. A cold shiver sliced through me. I shouldn't have gone back. I shouldn't have needed closure. But part of me wanted to look him in the eye and see what a man looks like when he realizes he's lost everything he used to crush everyone else. When I arrived, Grayson was standing by the penthouse door, hands braced against the wall, breathing hard, like a trapped animal. So this is your victory lap? He spat as I stepped out of the elevator. This is accountability, I answered. He laughed, a bitter, broken sound.
You think you're some kind of hero? You think anyone's going to believe you? You're fragile, emotional, pregnant. I met his gaze without flinching. And you're under investigation for fraud, embezzlement, and illegal transfers. Your reputation is gone. Your leverage is gone. Your money is gone. His jaw twitched. You have no idea how much damage you've done. I protected our child, I said softly, from you. That hit him hard. His mask cracked, revealing something raw beneath it. Panic or fury, I couldn't tell. He stepped closer, lowering his voice into a hiss. You think this is over? You think a few signatures can take me down? They already did. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the hallway. Then he leaned in, eyes burning. I'm not afraid of the government. I'm not afraid of your brother. I'm not afraid of some washed-up investor trying to settle old scores. His lips curled into something dark. But you should be afraid of what I do next. Before I could respond, footsteps echoed behind us. I turned, and Dr. Lucas Bennett stood there, eyes locked on Grayson, expression colder than I'd ever seen.
Step away from her,
he said.
now.
And Grayson Hale finally realized he wasn't just fighting me anymore. Lucas stepped between us with a steadiness that forced Grayson to pause. Not back down, he never backed down, but hesitate just long enough for me to breathe.
She doesn't need your threats,
Lucas said, voice low and controlled.
Not now, not ever.
Grayson glared at him with pure contempt.
You again. What is this, your hero complex? Stay out of my marriage.
Lucas didn't blink.
Your marriage ended the moment you chose someone else.
The hallway thickened with tension. My pulse echoed in my ears. But then, an elevator ding shattered the silence. The doors opened, and Sienna Clark stepped out. Her crimson coat clung to her like armor, but her face was pale, shaken, nothing like the woman who smirked at me in the plaza ballroom. She held a folder in her trembling hands, thick, stuffed, sealed with desperation. Grayson, she said, voice cracking, we need to talk. He spun around, eyes filled with fury. Not now. Yes, she snapped, surprising all of us. Now. She shoved the folder against his chest. It bounced off and fell to the floor, papers spilling across the hallway like a confession. Emails, bank statements, voice recordings. Proof of everything Grayson thought he'd buried. I kept everything, Sienna whispered. Every lie, every illegal transfer, every message where you promised me the world while planning to replace me once the IPO passed. Grayson's expression faltered. Shock, disbelief, rage, all twisting together. You stupid. Don't, she said sharply, stepping back. I'm done being your puppet. I stared at her, stunned. This wasn't mercy. This wasn't regret. This was survival. She turned to me. Elena, I didn't do it for you. I'm not pretending to be noble. I just want out. And the only way out is with the truth. My voice was barely a whisper. Why bring it now? Because he doesn't fear losing me, she said, eyes glistening. But he fears losing everything else. Grayson lunged toward her, but Lucas blocked him instantly. Touch her, Lucas warned. And I'll make sure the federal agents know exactly where to look next. Sienna exhaled shakily, then locked eyes with me. He's more dangerous than you think. You need to finish what you started. A chill ran through me. Finish what? Sienna stepped closer, lowering her voice to a whisper meant only for me. The investigators don't have the full picture, but I do. And if you want him gone, really gone, you're going to need my help. She pressed a USB drive into my hand. This ends tonight. And when I saw what was on that drive, I realized she was right. Tonight, everything would burn. The moment I returned to the Brooklyn loft, I locked the door behind me and pressed my back against it, breathing hard. The USB drive Sienna had given me felt heavier than anything I'd ever carried. My baby shifted under my ribs, reminding me that every decision I made now wasn't just for me, it was for both of us. Noah sat on the couch, tension pulsing in his jaw.
What happened?
He asked. I handed him the drive.
This, I whispered, might be the end of him. We plugged it into my laptop. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a folder opened, filled with audio files, confidential contracts, voice memos Grayson recorded for himself, and even video clips Sienna must have captured when he wasn't paying attention. The final file made my blood run ice cold. A recorded conversation between Grayson and a foreign investor discussing laundering money through Hale Dynamics East. Noah's face drained of color. This isn't just unethical. This is federal crime territory. This could put him away for years. A tremor ran through me, fear, relief, disbelief all tangled together. So, what do we do? Before Noah could answer, there was a sharp knock at the door. We froze. Another knock, firm, authoritative. Noah whispered, "Stay behind me." He opened the door a crack. 2 federal agents stood there, badges raised. "Mrs. Hale?" one asked. I stepped forward cautiously. "We need to speak with you," the agent continued, "regarding the ongoing investigation into Grayson Hale." My pulse quickened. "How did you find me?" "We received an anonymous tip," he said. "Someone sent us internal documents from inside your husband's circle. Whoever it was wanted you protected." "Sienna, it had to be." They entered the loft, setting their files on the table. "We believe your husband is attempting to transfer funds internationally. We also know he went to your brother's residence yesterday." My breath caught. "He threatened him." The agent nodded grimly. "That's why we're here. We need everything you have, tonight." I exchanged a glance with Noah, terror in his eyes, resolve in mine. I looked down at my belly and whispered, "This ends now." I slid the USB drive across the table. "Take it," I said. "Everything you need is on there." The agent opened the folder, brows lifting in shock as the evidence began to unfold. This is enough to indict him immediately." Before I could inhale, the agent's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, then his expression darkened. He looked up at me slowly. "Mrs. Hale, your husband is on the move." My stomach dropped. "On the move where?" The agent swallowed hard. "He's coming here. And he's not coming alone." The federal agents exchanged urgent glances. Then one of them moved to the window, peeking through the blinds into the dimly lit Brooklyn street. Rain glistened on the pavement, reflecting the yellow glow of the street lamps. "He's close," the agent said. "Black Mercedes, pulled into the alley." My lungs tightened. Of course he drove the Mercedes. The car he bought as a symbol of power. A car that announced his presence before he ever stepped out of it. Noah locked the door and positioned himself between me and the entrance. Get back," he whispered. "Stay behind the table." But the agents shook their heads. "If he forces his way in, we don't want you cornered. Move toward the back hallway." I obeyed, my hand instinctively cradling my belly. The baby shifted, sensing my fear. My heartbeat pulsed in my throat as heavy footsteps echoed from the stairwell outside. One step, another, slow, deliberate. He wasn't hiding. He wanted us to hear him coming. Then, a violent bang rattled the door. "Elena!" Grayson's voice roared. "Open this door right now!" Noah stepped forward, jaw clenched. "You're not welcome here." More pounding. The wood shook against its hinges. "Elena, I swear to God, open this door." The agents positioned themselves on either side, hands on their holsters. One whispered into his radio. "Target is attempting forced entry, requesting immediate backup." Another bang, harder this time. Grayson was losing control, losing composure, losing the last pieces of the life he built on lies. "Elena," he growled, voice lowering into something almost feral.
We are going to talk about what you did. You think you can steal from me? You think you can destroy everything I built? My voice shook, but I forced the words out. You destroyed it yourself. A moment of eerie silence followed. Then a soft chuckle. Cold, hollow, terrifying. You always thought you were smarter than you are. Noah shouted, "Walk away, Grayson." Another bang cracked the doorframe. "I'm not leaving without her," he shouted. Just then, a distant wail of sirens cut through the tension. Blue lights flashed outside the window. Grayson's footsteps stopped. He knew what those sirens meant. His time was up. But instead of fleeing, he whispered through the door, quietly, darkly. "You think they can protect you forever, Elena?" The knob twisted violently, and suddenly the door burst open. But it wasn't Grayson Hale standing there. It was someone who would change everything about what happened next. The door flew open with such force that Noah lunged forward, ready to defend, but he froze when he saw who stood there. Not Grayson, not one of his enforcers, a full federal arrest team. 2 agents in tactical jackets entered first, followed by the lead investigator I'd seen at the Hale Dynamics lobby. Rainwater dripped from their shoulders, boots heavy against the wooden floor.
"Mrs. Hale," the lead agent said firmly, "please step aside. We have a warrant." Behind him, more officers swept into the hallway, forming a controlled, disciplined formation. Their presence filled the loft with a weight heavier than fear, certainty, power, consequence. And then, finally, dragged between 2 agents, Grayson Hale appeared. His suit was soaked, his hair plastered to his forehead, eyes blazing with fury and disbelief. He must have tried to run when he heard the sirens. He must have fought. But even now, restrained, he twisted violently. "No," he snarled. "You can't arrest me. You don't have anything." "We have everything," the investigator replied coldly. "Wire transfers, recorded conversations, shell accounts, falsified filings. And thanks to your wife," he nodded at me, "we have your mistress's evidence, too." Grayson's head snapped toward me.
"You," he hissed, voice low and cracked. "You betrayed me." My throat tightened, but my voice remained steady. "No, I survived you." He laughed, wild, broken, slipping into something unhinged. "You think this makes you powerful? You think this makes you safe?" One of the agents shoved him toward the door. "Save it for the judge, Mr. Hale." But Grayson kept talking, eyes locked on me even as they dragged him away. "I built you," he shouted. "I gave you everything. You were nothing before me. Nothing." Something inside me finally snapped free. I stepped forward, lifting my chin. "No, Grayson, I was everything before you. You just never saw it." For the first time, he truly faltered, his expression cracking into something small, something defeated. The agents hauled him into the stairwell, his shouts echoing down the concrete shaft until they vanished completely. Silence fell, a long, fragile silence. Noah wrapped an arm around me. "You did it, Elle," he whispered. "It's over." But the lead agent slowly shook his head. "No," he said, "it isn't." He handed me a sealed envelope, heavy, official, government stamped. "There's something you need to see, something we found in his private files." My breath caught. "What is it?" His answer made my skin crawl. Proof that Grayson wasn't acting alone. And the person helping him was someone much closer than you think. The envelope in my hands felt heavier than anything the federal agents had shown me before. Not because of its weight, because of what it represented. The last remaining piece of a life I thought I understood. My fingers trembled as I broke the seal. Inside were printed emails. Dates, timestamps, digital signatures. But the name on the screen made my stomach twist. Arthur Langston, the mentor who had helped me. The man who provided documents. The one who said he wanted justice. Noah leaned over my shoulder. "Elle, is that?" "Yes," I whispered. "He was helping Grayson before he helped me." The agents explained that Arthur had once been Grayson's silent partner, cleaning up his early financial messes in exchange for power.
But when Grayson cut him out of the IPO deal, Arthur turned on him and used me as the perfect weapon. I felt sick. Arthur didn't save me. He used me, just like Grayson. I sank onto the sofa, pressing a hand to my belly as tears blurred the page. For the first time in weeks, the weight of everything, fear, betrayal, exhaustion, crashed down on me all at once. No one knelt beside me. "Elena, look at me. You're safe now." But that wasn't entirely true. Grayson was gone, yes, but the emotional wreckage didn't disappear with him.
Later that evening, after the agents left and the loft finally grew quiet, a soft knock sounded at the door. Lucas. His dark hair was damp from rain, his coat unbuttoned, his expression gentle the moment he saw my tear-stained cheeks. "Elena," he said softly, stepping inside. "I came as soon as I heard." I tried to speak, but emotion clogged my throat. He didn't push. He didn't ask for explanations. He simply sat beside me, offering silent company, the kind I'd never had in my marriage. "You've carried the weight of an entire collapsing world," he murmured, "but you're still standing. That alone makes you stronger than either of them ever were." A tear slipped down my cheek. "Then why does it still hurt?" "Because you're human," he said gently. "And because healing doesn't begin the moment a man is taken away in handcuffs. It begins when you finally allow yourself to breathe." He reached over and held my hand, warm, steady, unhurried. And for the first time in months, I exhaled without shaking. But just as peace began to settle in, my phone buzzed on the table. A number I didn't recognize. A single message. "You think the arrest ends this? You have no idea what he left behind." My breath caught, because the past wasn't finished with me, not yet. The unknown message haunted me for days. Every time my phone buzzed, my pulse jumped, expecting another threat, another echo of Grayson's world clawing its way back into mine. But nothing else came, just silence, the kind that doesn't comfort, the kind that warns. Lucas insisted on staying close, driving me to appointments, walking me to the loft door, texting to make sure I wasn't alone. He never acted like a replacement, never pushed, never pretended he could erase the past. He was just there, steady, quiet, unwavering. By the end of that week, something inside me felt lighter. Not healed, not whole, but finally moving forward. So when Lucas invited me for a walk, I said yes. We met at the entrance of the Brooklyn Bridge at sunset. The sky glowed in streaks of rose gold and soft lavender, and the city lights flickered awake one window at a time. I rested my hands on my belly as we walked, the baby kicking gently like encouragement. "It's beautiful tonight," I murmured. Lucas smiled. "It's clearer tonight. You notice beauty more when the chaos fades." We stopped halfway across the bridge, where the wind brushed against us and the skyline stretched endlessly. Manhattan rising proud and bright, a reminder that life continued even through heartbreak. "Elena," he said, voice softening, "I need to say something." I turned, expecting comfort. I didn't expect what came next. Lucas slowly lowered himself onto one knee. My breath caught. The world seemed to pause. "I know your heart is still healing," he said. "I know you've carried battles no one should carry alone. But I also know the strength you have, the kindness, the courage. And I want to build something with you, not to replace what you lost, but to help create what you deserve." Tears filled my eyes. "Lucas." He reached into his coat pocket, not a velvet box, not a grand gesture, just a simple ring wrapped in a handkerchief. "A promise," he said, "that you'll never be alone again, not you, not the baby." My knees weakened. Emotion surged through me, relief, gratitude, love, all tangled together. I whispered, "Yes." Lucas rose and wrapped his arms around me, forehead touching mine as the wind carried the city's hum around us. For the first time in what felt like years, I felt safe, truly, deeply safe. But as we headed back across the bridge, a figure stepped from behind a pillar, a shadow, watching, waiting. My heart stopped. And when he spoke my name, I realized the past had followed me here,
to the very edge of my new beginning. The shadow stepped into the glow of the bridge lights, and for a split second my breath froze, until I recognized him. Arthur Langston. Not a threat, not an ally, something in between. "Elena," he said, hands raised to show he meant no harm, "I'm not here to frighten you." Lucas moved protectively in front of me. "State your business, Langston." Arthur looked older than before, eyes heavy with regret, shoulders weighted by consequences finally catching up.
"I came to tell you it's over. Truly over." My pulse steadied. "He's sentenced?"
Arthur nodded. "The evidence you and Sienna provided eliminated any possibility of leniency, wire fraud, money laundering, manipulation of corporate assets. He'll be gone for a very long time." The wind swept across the bridge as the truth settled. It was real. The nightmare was done. "I also came," Arthur added quietly, "to apologize. I used you without considering the danger I placed you in. Grayson corrupted everything he touched, including me. But you broke the pattern." Lucas's grip on my hand tightened, grounding me. I drew a slow breath. "Thank you for telling me, but the apology doesn't belong to me alone. My brother, my unborn child, they paid for this too." Arthur nodded, accepting the weight of what he couldn't undo. "The court intends to seize Grayson's remaining personal assets.
As his legal spouse, you're entitled to what's left after restitution. You'll be financially protected." For the first time in months, the word protected didn't feel foreign. Arthur stepped back. "Live your life, Mrs. Hale. Live it well." He disappeared into the moving crowd on the bridge, swallowed by the lights of Manhattan, a chapter closing in real time. Lucas turned toward me, brushing a strand of hair from my cheek. "You okay?" I nodded, tears warming my eyes. For the first time, yes. We walked off the bridge hand in hand, the city glowing around us. In the months that followed, Grayson Hale was convicted on all charges. Sienna rebuilt her life far from the corporate world. Arthur testified, cleansed his conscience, and vanished from the public eye. Noah found a new job, a new apartment, and a peace he hadn't felt in years. And me? I gave birth to a healthy baby boy, our son, surrounded by love, safety, and light. On the morning we brought him home, Lucas whispered into my hair, "You're free, Elena, truly free." And as I held my child against my heart, I realized something profound. The story didn't end in destruction. It ended in rebuilding, in justice, in love. Everything Grayson tried to take from me, I now had tenfold, because sometimes the greatest revenge is simply living the life they never believed you could. You know, now that our story has come to an end, I want to turn to you, my wonderful friends watching right now. If you've stayed with us all the way to this moment, it means something in this journey touched you, maybe in a quiet way, maybe in a way you didn't expect. And that matters. Because Elena's story isn't just about betrayal or revenge. It's about rediscovering your worth after someone tries to take it away. The Stoics said, "What stands in the way becomes the way." And that's what Elena lived through. Pain became clarity. Loss became strength. Endings became beginnings. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. When Elena chose her own peace, everything changed. Maybe your life has its own storms. Maybe your heart has its own scars. But healing is real. Renewal is real. And you're stronger than you think. I promise you that. If this story spoke to you, even a little, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps our little community grow. And it lets us keep telling stories that remind you you're never walking alone. This story is a work of fiction created entirely for entertainment, emotional reflection, and personal growth. While the characters and events may feel real, they are not based on any actual individuals or real-life situations. The purpose of this narrative is to explore themes like resilience, healing, and self-worth in a dramatic and cinematic way. Any resemblance to actual people or events is purely coincidental. Our intention is not to provide legal, financial, or medical advice, nor to portray real institutions or investigations.
Instead, we aim to offer meaningful storytelling that inspires and encourages viewers to reflect on their own strength and choices. Thank you for understanding the creative nature of this content, and for supporting our channel as we continue to bring you uplifting and thought-provoking stories.